You now, under this bill, by clarifying the 91 law, are going to have to make a decision whether you're going to take that union pension or the city pension. So if you take the union pension, the question is, are you going to get reimbursed for the contributions you made, if any, on the city pension? And it's silent as to that. It came out of the Senate silent. So I want to see where the Senate was on that. So it's just in that particular area that you've got to make a decision if you're currently somebody on leave from the city about that contribution you've been making. I think it was kind of like, that's their problem, and I think is what came out of the Senate.
But I mean, you're not envisioning a situation where somebody could literally have put in more than they can get out in total between the two systems.
No, I don't think. Yeah, and I don't even think that's. And maybe I'm missing your question. You're going to end up collecting. Let's say you elect to get the union pension, you can't also get the city. So someone's made a contribution for it, either you have or the union. And the question is, how do you get that back? And that's the one we've got to kind of work through over the next couple of hours.
Bob Malaro made a couple of references to numbers. At first he said there's 7 or 8 people who could be currently trapped in this limbo, and maybe 20 to 30 retirees. Do you have any numbers that would, is he right? Is it that few? Is it
I don't know. It's a pretty aggressive interpretation of it with these people having 2 pensions. So I don't know that anyone knows the number.
And the people who are currently getting both pensions, they still get to collect those?
Yeah, you don't go after retirees under this bill, and we're going to make that known. But if you've started and you've made taken the leave of absence, you're going to have to make an election, even though you haven't retired.
What's the effective date? Is it effective immediately, or are we going to look at a bunch of people
I think it's immediately effective. Hey, is this immediately effective? Yeah.
What do you think about Cook County being its own state? What do you think about that idea?
Today I'm working on pensions.
I missed the entire hearing. I was next door in this fun CME one. So can you just speak to what in general does it say about Illinois that this legislation is needed to clean up these abuses?
Yeah, I don't know if you're angry, if you're frustrated, if you're dismayed, if you're shocked, if you're appalled. It's all of the above that we're having to even deal with this. I mean, a guy can work as a substitute teacher for a day and then become a full-fledged member of TRS for all his time he worked for the Illinois Federation of Teachers. That's insane. And it's all the things I mentioned. But I think this General Assembly recognizes that all of these abuses are out of line, and we're going to correct them as quickly as we can, hopefully tomorrow, and I think we will.
Do you think that we'll see a vote and passage of any other pension reform?
No, and it's not tomorrow.
Well, no, I mean, but coming up this year.
Look, we don't have a choice. I mean, everything flows from the pension system. We're going to have this $85 billion number climbs by 7 because we didn't address pension reform this year. Another $7 billion. Our pension payment, because of the ramp and because of borrowing, paying back borrowing, is going to be over $7 billion next year out of a $33 billion plus or minus budget. We can't afford not to do it. And if you start looking at other states, they've gotten it and they're figuring it out. Rhode Island just did it. So I think businesses are talking about leaving the state. One of the reasons is because of the fact that we haven't gotten our fiscal house in order, and pensions being the #1 culprit. So I certainly hope so. It's not going away. The beauty of this issue is we kind of see the path of the tornado coming right at us. We know how wide it's going to be. We know how strong it's going to be. We can do something about it if we want to.
Do you see any chance that legislative scholarship abolishment could be taken up today or tomorrow?
One of the leaders said in a leaders meeting a couple weeks ago, no, that he or she, I'm not going to say who it was, wanted to do something in the spring.
So do you think that we had a story over the weekend that Preckwinkle's family was pretty successful in legislative.
He's had a pretty good run, I'd say, in the state lately. That's a little embarrassing. But
do you think that should give it more impetus to try to eliminate that program?
Well, I think that most members of the General Assembly support the elimination of it. Whether or not we get into this game of going back and forth like we've seen in the past, I don't know. But it's something certainly that I think people have seen enough abuse. They're tired of it.
I'm going to kind of go back and research this, but whatever Malaro was talking about with this bill, and to resolve that, is that the Senate issue or is that something different?
Malaro is basically asking whether or not retired people are going to be affected by this legislation, and we will say on the floor tomorrow, no.
Because that would be unconstitutional, basically, or why?
We're just going to say tomorrow that it doesn't apply to retired people.
We're already getting their pension.
Do you think you might come back and try to address that later?
You know what? So many things keep coming up that I think anything's on the table. And it's who would have ever thought this issue with the Preckwinkle issue a day that ever would have happened. So I'm no longer shocked about some of the abuses out there. So who knows what all's out there? And we'll continue to be passionate and aggressive about it.
When you say who would have ever thought this would have happened, do you believe that, or do you believe that somebody wrote this legislation knowing?
Oh, I think somebody wrote it. They had to write it knowingly. Same with the 91 law, and it was all calculated. And I think it was done knowingly and by people that benefited by writing it in a certain way and benefited by having it written in a certain way. And that's too bad.
Is there a way to protect against that?
Well, we've had this course of history in this state where we pack a lot of good things in a bill and then sometimes not so good things. And I think that's a matter of the people running the place about how if they want to kind of shy away from that type of approach, because that's you have these 200-page bills with 10 good things and one bad thing, and it's that old trick of saying if you want these 10 good things, you get stuck with the bad thing. And I don't think anybody that voted for that, say the Preckwinkle issue, would say they supported this idea at all. But it was clearly written so this could happen. I mean, there's no other way around that. You can't. This isn't a matter of just interpreting. This is the reality. It was written for a purpose, and that's that in itself is not good.
Who do you think did it?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on that at this point. You guys can do that.
But do you
I think you can find out.
A drafter or a legislator, somebody sponsoring it for that occasion, or
Look, there are a universe of folks that were able to, and I think there are more people out there. I'm told there are more people out there that took advantage of this loophole. And I'm calling it a loophole of the 2006-2007 law. People knew exactly what they were doing. Steve Preckwinkle didn't go substitute teach for a day just to feel good about it, I don't think, with all due respect to him. He knew exactly what was going on. And everybody in this building knows things don't pass out of here without the support of the Speaker and the President of the Senate. So I'm not interested in stepping up the rhetoric, but we know how this stuff happens and why it happened. We were taking care of people, and that's what was going on in this situation.
Can we switch to CME? Where do you think that stands? Do you have enough votes on your side?
I don't know. We're going to go to caucus tomorrow. One of the things that I'm curious about, and I'm starting to question is there's it's not anything against CME, but there is a request for us to give change public policy in a pretty significant way to the tune of about $85 million, and we've yet to have been supplied data to show us how many trades have taken place or are taking place in the state of Illinois to figure out what that percentage should be. I think if you're going to have this conversation about a pretty significant change of law, you need to have the data to support it. And I'm a little unsure at this point why we haven't been supplied that data, even though it's been asked.
Would there be more votes to just simply roll back the tax increase?
Oh, I think people are starting to realize that a broader-based approach makes some sense. We are every week. It seems like somebody's coming in and saying, "Give me a break." I mean, a tax break. And I understand businesses trying to survive, but I think it's looking at rolling back. I think it's a combination of things. I think it's maybe rolling back the tax. I think it's fixing a pension. When I go talk to CEOs, they talk about the fear of if you don't fix things like the pensions, you're going to come to us to look for more money to fund these things. So it's pensions, it's comp policy, it's tax policy, it's regulatory policy. There are a lot of things, but I think this piecemeal approach. I mean, if we do this tomorrow, who's going to be knocking on our door next week? Who's going to be knocking on our door in January? And everybody's going to say they've got a compelling case. And I think that's where we have to really make a decision about whether we want to do this piecemeal or have a broader approach from a tax policy.
Is it fair to blame it on the tax increase, or even a broader approach is needed, given that states are constantly offering one another. It's this bidding war for businesses, no matter what. I mean, even before the tax increase.
Tax policy is a component of the overall problem. As I just said, I'm being repetitive, but I think it's pensions, it's regulatory. I still think we've got a problem with comp. I think we have a problem with our tort system. It's a whole host of things, and you talk to big and small, and they're very frustrated with where we are as a state. But you can't. The bottom line is you can't keep going down the road of one at a time. Each company, because I think it's the big companies that get all the attention. It's the small and medium-sized companies that can't make these threats to leave, and you're doing them I think you're treating them unfairly as well.
So do you know how you'll vote on the package?
No, I haven't even seen the final package yet. We're going to go to caucus tomorrow and talk about it.
Is this talk of a lump sum budget for the governor for the rest of this fiscal year, or at some point is that real?
I don't know. I read about it in an article in what's known as Capital Facts, and I found out about this morning. And I'm not aware of it. He apparently has a relationship with the speaker, and they talk about policy here for the state of Illinois. I'm not aware of it, so I'm hopeful at 4 o'clock that I will find out what we all mean by lump sum, because I haven't been able to talk to Mr. Miller yet.
Have you got a prediction for what will happen with this pension abuse legislation in the full House tomorrow?
My sense, after having listened to all the questions here in the committee and the vote, that it should get out of the House. And I'm hopeful. The governor's made comments that he's ready to stop pension abuse. I would urge everybody to not take this as an overall victory on pensions, which is an abuse issue. We still have to reform and stabilize our pension systems.
You don't think you'll have to amend it then?
Oh, no. We're gonna do all we can to clean this up with legislative intent. The one question that Malaro had, we were ready to address that, and I'm not concerned about that. No,
we talked to the governor about this.
In general terms, he has said he wants to get pension abuse addressed, and so we will hopefully have a bill sent to him quickly.
I guess
Your
he
meeting
says
at
he wants to
4.
review the legislation.
Your meeting at 4 is with.
There's no racetrack stuff in it.
Is it just with the leaders, or is it also with the governor?
The governor is going to be there too.
Is he relevant?
Please.